Behind the palace gates, a little prince with twinkling eyes and an infectious giggle was about to give the world something they desperately needed: pure, unfiltered joy. In a time when royal news often felt formal and distant, one photograph would remind millions why sometimes the most powerful moments come from the smallest hands and the biggest smiles. What started as a simple birthday tradition would become a beacon of hope, a reminder that even in the most privileged families, children remain beautifully, wonderfully human. This is the story of how one mischievous 6-year-old prince managed to steal hearts across the globe, not with grand gestures or royal protocols, but with something far more precious: his authentic, unbridled spirit captured in a single, perfect moment that would make the world smile when they needed it most. The sun barely peeked through the heavy curtains of Kensington Palace when Catherine, Princess of Wales, quietly slipped out of bed. April 23rd had arrived, marking another milestone in the Cambridge household. Today, their youngest son, Prince Louis, would turn 6 years old, and like every year since his birth, Kate had a special tradition planned. She pattered softly down the corridor in her silk robe, her mind already racing with the day's possibilities. The palace staff had learned over the years that the princess preferred to handle certain family moments herself, especially when it came to photographing her children. There was something magical about capturing those unguarded moments before the formal celebrations began. In the kitchen, Kate prepared Louis's favorite breakfast: pancakes shaped like lions, a playful nod to his name's meaning. The smell of vanilla and cinnamon filled the air as she worked, occasionally glancing toward the staircase, waiting for the sound of little feet racing down the steps. Prince Louis had always been an early riser, much like his grandfather, King Charles, though his energy levels far exceeded anyone else in the family. The first sign of life came not as footsteps, but as a series of thuds from upstairs, followed by muffled giggling. Kate smiled, recognizing the familiar sound of Louis attempting to slide down the banister again, despite countless warnings from his protection officers. The boy had inherited his father's adventurous spirit and his great-grandmother's mischievous streak, creating a combination that kept everyone constantly on their toes. "Money!" came the excited shout as Louis burst into the kitchen, his sandy hair sticking up in all directions, still wearing his dinosaur pajamas from the night before. Behind him trailed Orla, the family's cocker spaniel, who had clearly been recruited as an accomplice in whatever morning adventure Louis had already embarked upon. "Happy birthday, my darling," Kate said, scooping him into a warm embrace. Louis squeezed her tight, then immediately wriggled free, his attention already caught by the lion-shaped pancakes waiting on the counter. "Did you make them raw?" he asked seriously, peering at his breakfast with the intense focus that had become his trademark. Everything in Louis's world deserved careful examination, from the patterns on butterfly wings to the way shadows moved across the palace walls. "They're waiting for you to wake them up," Kate replied, playing along with his imagination. This was what she treasured most about Louis, his ability to find magic in the simplest things, to see possibilities where others saw ordinary moments. As Louis devoured his breakfast, Kate mentally prepared for the day ahead. She had learned from experience that photographing Louis required patience, creativity, and a willingness to abandon any preconceived notions about how things should go. Unlike his older siblings, Prince George and Princess Charlotte, who had gradually grown comfortable with formal photography sessions, Louis approached every camera with the enthusiasm of a performer and the unpredictability of a hurricane. The official birthday portrait was scheduled for later that morning in the palace gardens. Kate had already scouted the location, choosing a spot near the rose garden where the morning light would be perfect. She had learned to work with natural light whenever possible, finding that it captured her children's personalities more authentically than any studio setup could achieve. William appeared in the kitchen just as Louis finished his last bite, already dressed for his morning engagements but taking time to lift his youngest son high into the air, eliciting squeals of delight that echoed through the palace corridors. The Prince of Wales had always made it a priority to be present for these milestone moments, despite his increasingly demanding schedule. "Ready for your big day, birthday boy?" William asked, settling Louis back on his feet. The 6-year-old nodded enthusiastically, then launched into a detailed explanation of everything he planned to accomplish before noon, including teaching Orla a new trick, building the world's tallest block tower, and convincing his parents to let him ride his bike without training wheels. Kate watched this exchange with the practiced eye of a mother who had learned to capture these fleeting moments in her memory as carefully as she captured them through her camera lens. Louis' 6th birthday felt particularly significant, marking his transition from toddler to proper little boy, though his infectious enthusiasm remained wonderfully unchanged. After breakfast, Kate retreated to her private study to review the camera settings and select the perfect lens for the morning's shoot. Photography had become more than just a hobby for her. It was a way to preserve the authentic moments of her children's lives, the genuine expressions that formal royal portraits often missed. She had spent years developing her skills, studying light and composition, learning to anticipate the perfect moment when her subject's true personality would shine through. The morning sun climbed higher, casting longer shadows across the palace grounds. Garden staff had been quietly preparing the photography location since dawn, though Kate had specifically requested minimal intervention. She preferred natural settings that allowed her children to feel comfortable and unrestricted, spaces where they could be themselves without worrying about disturbing carefully arranged props or formal compositions. Louis spent the time before his photo session in his playroom, surrounded by birthday presents from family members who had arrived early. His great-aunt, Princess Anne, had sent a collection of model horses, while his uncle, Prince Harry, had shipped a large box of art supplies from California. Each gift reflected the gift-giver's understanding of Louis's current interests, though the boy's attention span meant his fascinations could change from week to week. As the appointed time approached, Kate gathered her equipment and made her way to the garden. She found Louis already there, having escaped from his nanny's supervision to explore the photography setup on his own terms. He was crouched beside a patch of daffodils, apparently engaged in serious conversation with a particularly large bumblebee that seemed equally interested in their discussion. "Louis, darling, shall we take some pictures?" Kate called gently, not wanting to disturb whatever important business he was conducting with his striped friend. He looked up with bright eyes, his face already showing traces of the mischief that would soon captivate millions of people around the world. "Can the bee be in the picture too?" he asked hopefully. Kate smiled, adjusting her camera settings. "We'll see what happens," she replied, knowing from experience that the best photographs often came from embracing the unexpected rather than fighting against it. The stage was set for a morning that would produce more than just birthday photos. It would create a moment of pure joy that would remind the world why sometimes the most powerful images come from the most genuine emotions, captured by a mother who understood that the real magic lay not in perfect poses, but in perfect timing. The photography session began like most others in the Cambridge household, with careful planning quickly giving way to delightful chaos. Kate had envisioned a series of formal portraits showcasing Louis's growing maturity as he entered his 6th year, but her youngest son had different ideas entirely. The moment Louis spotted the camera, his personality shifted into what the palace staff had fondly termed performance mode. Unlike his siblings, who had learned to approach photo sessions with royal composure, Louis viewed every camera as an invitation to showcase his rapidly expanding repertoire of facial expressions, sound effects, and interpretive dance moves. "Mummy, watch this," he announced, launching into an elaborate routine that appeared to combine elements of martial arts, ballet, and what might have been his interpretation of a dinosaur hunt. Kate lowered her camera, recognizing that fighting Louis's natural exuberance would only lead to frustration for everyone involved. Instead, she decided to embrace the chaos, switching her approach from formal portraiture to documentary-style photography. She had learned over the years that Louis's authentic personality emerged most clearly when he forgot about the camera entirely, becoming absorbed in whatever had captured his imagination in that particular moment. The breakthrough came when Louis discovered a cluster of soap bubbles drifting across the garden from a nearby fountain. His attention immediately shifted from performing for the camera to pursuing these iridescent spheres with the focused determination of a seasoned hunter. Kate raised her camera again, this time ready to capture whatever unfolded naturally. What happened next would later be described by photo editors around the world as a masterclass in timing and intuition. As Louis chased the bubbles, his expression cycled through pure concentration, surprise, delight, and finally, uncontrolled laughter, as several bubbles popped simultaneously against his nose. Kate's finger found the shutter button at precisely the right moment. The camera captured Louis mid-giggle, his eyes crinkled with genuine joy, his sandy hair catching the morning light like a halo. But it was his expression that would later captivate millions, a look of such pure, unadulterated happiness that it seemed to radiate from the photograph itself. The technical aspects of the image were flawless. Kate's years of practice had taught her to instinctively adjust for changing light conditions, and the natural setting provided the perfect backdrop for Louis's vibrant energy. But the real magic lay in the emotional authenticity of the moment, the way the photograph captured not just Louis's appearance, but his very essence. "Did you get it, Mummy?" Louis asked, abandoning his bubble chase to examine the camera with intense curiosity. Like many children his age, he was fascinated by the technology that could freeze moments in time, though his understanding of the process remained charmingly simplified. Kate reviewed the image on her camera's display and immediately knew she had captured something special. The photograph showed Lewis exactly as she saw him every day. Curious, joyful, slightly mischievous, and completely authentic. It was the kind of image that would make viewers smile involuntarily, the kind that reminded people why childhood was considered magical. But the session was far from over. Emboldened by the success of the bubble sequence, Kate decided to let Louis direct the remainder of the shoot. This approach required considerable faith in a 6-year-old's artistic vision, but it had produced some of their most memorable family photographs in the past. Louis's creative direction proved characteristically ambitious. He wanted photographs of himself flying, jumping off a garden bench with his arms spread wide, roaring like the lions on his breakfast pancakes, which involved considerable dramatic facial expression, and demonstrating his newly mastered ability to cross his eyes and wiggle his ears simultaneously. Each request challenged Kate's technical skills in different ways. Capturing Louis mid-jump required precise timing and fast shutter speeds. The roaring sequence demanded careful attention to light and shadow to properly showcase his dramatic expressions. The ear-wiggling demonstration called for macro-level focus on facial details that would highlight his concentrated effort. Through it all, Kate maintained her professional composure while internally marveling at Lewis's inexhaustible creativity. Each pose revealed different aspects of his personality: his fearlessness, his sense of humor, his intense focus when attempting challenging tasks, and his irrepressible joy in sharing his achievements with others. The session took an unexpected turn when Orla decided to join the proceedings uninvited. The family's cocker spaniel had been watching the activities from a respectful distance, but the sight of Lewis jumping and laughing apparently triggered her protective instincts. She bounded into the photography area, determined to participate in whatever game was clearly bringing her favorite small human such obvious delight. What followed could only be described as controlled chaos. Louis, delighted by Orla's arrival, immediately began incorporating her into his poses. The dog, confused but willing, attempted to follow Lewis's increasingly elaborate directions, while Kate struggled to keep both subjects in frame simultaneously. The resulting photographs captured something that formal portraits never could: the genuine relationship between boy and dog, the easy affection and shared enthusiasm that characterized Lewis's interactions with every living creature in his orbit. Orla's addition to the session transformed it from a simple birthday photo shoot into a celebration of the joy that Louis brought to every relationship in his life. As the morning progressed, Kate noticed that Louis's initial excitement was beginning to evolve into something deeper. The birthday boy was starting to understand that these photographs would be shared beyond their family circle, that people around the world would see him as he truly was, rather than making him self-conscious. This realization seemed to inspire him to showcase his most authentic self even more boldly. The final sequence of photographs showed Louis in quieter moments, examining a ladybug that had landed on his finger, sharing a secret with Orla, gazing thoughtfully at the camera, with the kind of direct, unguarded expression that would later prompt thousands of social media comments about his old soul and natural charisma. As Kate lowered her camera for the final time that morning, she knew she had captured something extraordinary. The collection of photographs told the complete story of Louis at 6, his energy, his curiosity, his capacity for joy, and his gift for finding magic in everyday moments. "Are we done, Money?" Louis asked, already eyeing the garden's climbing frame with obvious intent. Kate nodded, already mentally planning how she would edit and select the images for public release. She had learned that sharing photographs of her children required careful consideration, choosing images that celebrated their personalities while respecting their privacy and maintaining appropriate boundaries. But as she watched Louis race toward his next adventure, she felt confident that the morning's work had produced exactly what the world needed to see. A reminder that joy was still possible, that innocence still existed, and that sometimes the most important messages came from the most unlikely messengers. The decision of which photograph to release publicly required more consideration than most people might imagine. Kate spent the afternoon in her private study, carefully reviewing each image on her computer screen, evaluating not just their technical quality, but their emotional impact and appropriateness for worldwide distribution. The palace's communications team had learned to trust Kate's instincts when it came to photographing her children, recognizing that her dual perspective as both mother and photographer gave her unique insight into which images truly captured her children's essence while maintaining appropriate privacy boundaries. Still, the selection process involved careful consultation with palace advisors who understood the global appetite for royal family content. As Kate scrolled through the morning's photographs, one image immediately stood out from the rest. It was the bubble moment. Louis caught mid-giggle, his face radiating pure joy, his expression so authentically delighted that it seemed to leap from the screen. The technical aspects were perfect. Sharp focus, beautiful light, excellent composition. But more importantly, the emotional content was irresistible. "This is the one," Kate murmured to herself, though she continued reviewing the other options to ensure she hadn't missed an even better choice. The other photographs were lovely. Some showed Louis' mischievous side, others captured his thoughtful moments. Several highlighted his natural charisma. But none possessed the immediate universal appeal of the bubble image. The photograph told a complete story in a single frame. Viewers didn't need context to understand what they were seeing, a child experiencing pure happiness. In a world often dominated by serious news and complex problems, the image offered something increasingly rare. Uncomplicated joy that asked nothing from viewers except the willingness to smile along. Kate made her final selection and forwarded it to the palace's digital team with specific instructions about timing and social media strategy. Royal birthday portraits traditionally received significant media attention, but this particular image had the potential to reach beyond the usual royal watching audience, to touch people who might normally scroll past palace content. The photograph was scheduled for release at precisely 9 in the morning London time, strategically timed to maximize global reach across different time zones. The palace's social media accounts would post simultaneously, accompanied by a simple caption. "Happy 6th birthday, Prince Louis. Thank you for all the kind wishes today." What happened next exceeded everyone's expectations, including seasoned palace communications staff who had witnessed decades of royal media moments. Within minutes of posting, the photograph began generating engagement numbers that surpassed previous royal social media records. People weren't just liking and sharing the image, they were adding heartfelt comments about how Louis' smile had brightened their day. The response transcended typical celebrity or royal family coverage. News outlets around the world picked up the story, but their coverage focused less on royal protocol and more on the universal appeal of childhood joy. Television presenters smiled while introducing the story. Newspaper editors chose to feature the photograph prominently, recognizing its power to lift readers' spirits. Social media platforms showed the photograph's remarkable reach, as it spread organically beyond the palace's official accounts. Parents shared it while commenting on their own children's similar expressions. Grandparents tagged family members, noting how Louis's smile reminded them of their own grandchildren. Teachers used it in classrooms to discuss emotions and expressions. The photograph's impact proved particularly meaningful during a challenging news cycle. Global events had been dominated by serious issues requiring careful consideration and nuanced analysis. Louis' birthday portrait offered something different, a moment of pure positivity that required no analysis, no debate, no complex understanding of international relations or economic policy. Child development experts began discussing the photograph in professional publications, noting how Louis's uninhibited expression of joy demonstrated healthy emotional development and secure attachment relationships. They praised Kate's photography for capturing authentic childhood emotion rather than posed artificial smiles, explaining how genuine expressions of happiness could positively impact viewers' moods and stress levels. The photograph's technical excellence also received recognition from professional photography communities. Kate's timing, composition, and use of natural light were analyzed in photography blogs and magazines, with many professionals noting how the image proved that the most powerful photographs often captured spontaneous moments rather than carefully orchestrated scenes. International media coverage revealed the photograph's cross-cultural appeal. News outlets in countries with no historical connection to the British monarchy featured the story, focusing on the universal language of childhood happiness. Comments poured in from around the world in dozens of languages, all expressing similar sentiments about the joy Louis's smile had brought to their day. The palace communications team monitored the response carefully, marveling at how one photograph had generated such overwhelmingly positive engagement. Unlike many royal stories that sparked debate or controversy, Louis's birthday portrait seemed to unite people in shared appreciation for innocent happiness. Behind the scenes, Kate felt deeply satisfied by the response. Her goal in sharing photographs of her children had always been to offer authentic glimpses into their family life while maintaining appropriate privacy boundaries. The reaction to Louis's birthday portrait confirmed that people craved genuine moments over manufactured perfection. William, reviewing the global response from his office, felt proud of both his wife's photographic skills and his son's natural ability to bring joy to others. The Prince of Wales understood the soft power of positive royal moments, recognizing how Louis's infectious happiness could influence public perception and international relationships in ways that formal diplomacy sometimes couldn't achieve. For Louis himself, the global response remained largely abstract. At 6 years old, he understood that his birthday photograph had made many people happy, which pleased him enormously. But his primary concern remained more immediate: whether his afternoon birthday party would include the promised bouncy castle, and if his friends would enjoy the dinosaur-themed decorations he had specifically requested. As the day concluded, the photograph continued circulating across international media and social platforms. Sleep schedules meant that different time zones experienced peak engagement at different hours, creating a wave of positivity that literally traveled around the world as people woke up to discover Lewis's radiant smile waiting in their news feeds. The lasting impact of the photograph extended beyond its initial viral moment. It became one of the most saved and shared royal family images in recent history, frequently reappearing whenever people needed reminding that joy still existed in the world. Parents bookmarked it to show their own children examples of genuine happiness. Therapists referenced it when discussing positive emotions with patients. Years later, the image would be remembered not just as a birthday portrait of a young prince, but as a moment when one child's authentic joy managed to unite millions of strangers in shared happiness. It proved that sometimes the most powerful messages came not from speeches or policies, but from the simple act of a 6-year-old boy sharing his uninhibited delight with the world. The photograph became a testament to the enduring power of genuine emotion, the universal appeal of childhood wonder, and the remarkable ability of authentic moments to transcend boundaries and touch hearts across cultures, languages, and continents. In capturing one perfect moment of her son's happiness, Kate had inadvertently created a gift that kept giving joy to people around the world, long after the birthday candles were blown out and the party decorations were put away.